So it looks like it's just about that time again when the fine folks at Toontrack put out a product that I can't resist but hit the buy it now button on. What am I talking about this time? Well, just today I received an email saying that they have released another new, and I'm guessing wonderful, if history is any indication, this is going to be another wonderful release by the fine folks over at Toontrack. And this is called the 60s EBX for ezbass. So another expansion pack for ezbass to add to our collection. I pretty much buy these as soon as I see them, almost without listening. I gave the sound samples a few listens on this, and I really like what they've done from the short little bit that I had to listen to them. So I like to do these videos as a reaction to my first impression of them. And I'm going to do something different today. We're going to take a listen to the sounds, see what instrument they're using, see what this is all about. But I'm also going to let you hear this used along with some Superior Drummer 3 tracks from a recent demo I did for one of my Line 6 Helix presets. And I'll also let you hear some of these presets in the mix so you get a better idea of how they might sit inside of a mix. Without further ado, let's go take a look, first of all, at the Toontrack website to see what this EBX is all about. Then we'll dive into some of the tones that we have. So here we are over at the Toontrack website, and we see here the 60s EBX, the big new badge on here, and looking like a really interesting bass. So it goes on to describe what this particular EBX is all about. It says it includes the vibe, the sound, the very bass model whose characteristically tubby, dark, and earthy thud played a leading role in its soundtrack. Arguably no other instrument paints a more vividly compelling image of an era, come and gone, than this sonically and visually. So, a meticulously captured classic violin-style electric bass from the early 60s, inspired by the characteristic 60s sound and scene, ideal for anything from subtle and acoustic music to full-on pop and rock setups. This is what I found really interesting. It includes a classic finger-playing style as well as a palm-muted option sampled with a pick. I can say from the little bit that I've already sampled with this is very interesting sounding. Let's see what the instrument actually is. So it says the bass that changed the face of pop. When Walter Hofner introduced the first edition of the 501 violin bass at the Frankfurt Musikmesse in 1956, little did he know that his hollow-bodied, short-scale, and quite frankly, peculiar-looking creation would come to change the course of music history. So we see that this is going to be this infamous Hofner bass, and they call it a violin-style bass for obvious reasons. So it says here it's seemingly based on an idea of creating an instrument that was appealing to players of upright basses fed up with hauling a 6-foot colossus to gigs. This was the first of its kind, an electric bass with the inherent qualities of an acoustic and vice versa. Very interesting stuff. Well, what's most important here is how this sounds. So here we are over in Cubase, and I have this little project set up, and let me just, first of all, minimize that. We'll come over here and just listen to this little mix that I have going. So you actually are hearing the Toontrack 60s bass here on one of the presets. So what do we get with this? Well, first of all, let's head over to our grooves menu, and we do have an EBX 60s groove library that comes along with it. It gives us 2 songs worth of grooves, straight 4/4 here at around 65 beats per minute. Already getting the impression it's very nice sounding pre-chorus. And we could flip through all of this different MIDI that we get along with the 60s EBX. Very nice stuff. We have another here, which is mid-tempo, straight 4/4 with 4 songs worth of MIDI. Nice stuff there. And keep in mind, we can drag any of these down to the timeline. I'm not going to do that because I already have some MIDI down here we're going to use to demo it in the mix. And just like all the other EBX packages that we've had in the past, we can drag those down to the timeline, change the chord progression, alter the MIDI in any way we want. Very intuitive, very easy to use. So that's a basic overview of some of the grooves we get with it. So very nice stuff. But the really important thing is going to be these presets that we have here. And you'll notice, as I mentioned when reading from the website, we have the muted picked versions of the presets and then the fingered version of the presets. So here is the clean DI preset that just kind of pops up by default. Nice and squishy sounding, as you would expect. I think this is going to really work nicely in the mix. But what if we take the muted picked version of that? Very, very cool. I like that. And that might help to just cut through the mix a little nicer. We have a few different versions of that. Bottomless here. Let's see what this is. Kind of a different EQ'd version of that. Very nice. So I could really see a use for this muted picked sound in certain mixes, but I'm going to be more curious about what the fingerstyle sounds are going to be like. I think this is where I would end up kind of using these presets more often. Some here with some different reverb styles on them. Really like this, the low power tube amp finger style, very nice. Very interesting. Now, heading over to the grid editor, what we can see here is what articulations they have. We have auto, alternate fingers, middle finger, index finger, ghost note, harmonic, percussive right hand, and tapping. But in this one, no slap and pop or ghost slap articulations. And we have our normal hammer-ons and slides that we can put in here as well. Heading up to some of the picked ones, we also have picking up and down. I'm guessing that's just going to be alternate because it has the two arrows. Ghost note, harmonic, percussive right hand, and tapping. So really interesting stuff. But how does it sound in a mix and maybe with even a rhythm section mix? So let's do this. Let's come back to our bass here, and we're going to take a listen to all of these different presets along with the drums, and then I'll pick a couple of my favorites and let you hear it in an entire mix. So there you have all of the different presets played with a drum track. One thing to keep in mind too is that all of these different presets have different controls with them. Some have sub bass and different EQs, the ability to control the amp and the instruments separately as we go through them. So as we switch through these, you'll see that we will have different control depending on the particular preset that we have, but it's always very tweakable. I do find that the default settings are usually pretty good. You know, for instance, on something like the Dirty Plate where you were hearing there was reverb in there, there is the ability for us to control the size of that reverb and how much reverb is in there. So I was just, for time constraint reasons, I was just simply going through and giving you the default settings. Keep in mind, these are all extremely tweakable with the extra controls that we have, as you can see up on the screen here as we go through them. So really handy to have. Now, some of my favorites in there that I want to let you hear in a more complex mix, I don't know if complex is the right word, but with more guitars in there and just not just a rhythm section, drums and bass. I really liked, as far as the pick muted, I liked the warm tubes and the vintage valve head to kind of give that some warmth to the tone. So let's hear what this sounds like in more of a full mix. I also really liked the vintage valve head as well. But I really think that the ones that I would like the most would probably be any of the fingerstyle ones. I really like the Ballad Presence preset. I also really like the Solid State preset. And also the Warm Tubes preset. So there you have it, without really doing a proper mix with any of those presets, just to give you an idea what those default settings sound like. I think you can see that we could get these sounding very, very nice if I took any extra time, to actually tweak that mix to get it sounding the way I would like to hear it. I'm really thinking that this EBX is a great addition, and I think you could also hear how it could really give us a new palette of tones for a specific mix if that's the sounds we're looking for. So I hope you guys enjoyed that look at this new the 60s EBX from the fine folks at Toontrack. If you're an ezbass user, go over, give it a look, grab it. I believe it's the same price, $89 US. To add that in, you get some new MIDI in their grooves library. You get all these new tones and all these new presets, some nice muted picking and some nice warm finger style tones from a really classic bass. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it was informative. Please like the video. Please share it with anybody who you think would get some use out of watching it. And also, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'll be back really soon with some more. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. Ciao for now.